Welcome to the Ghost Show online, my fiends, booze, and ghouls. Your hosts, Seika Groves, Rachel Bender, and Ian Russell will discuss all things paranormal. Prepare to be afraid.
Okay, this is actually how I actually got started in the paranormal.
Oh, wow.
And it's a not a connection of, like, say, going to someone's house, but it's connected to us, specifically Trudy. So anyways, let me go back to the beginning. So I was in college. I was taking a film arts television course.
Okay.
And I was home for the Christmas vacation. And when I was here, I had read in one of the newspaper publications here about a building here in Hamilton called the Custom House.
Okay, yep.
And the Custom House was built in 1860 for the Customs Department. It ran for about 30 years, and then has evolved over the years into various other types of businesses. It was a school, it's been factories, it was a YWCA, it's now a museum.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
So anyways, I was home for the Christmas holidays, and I read this newspaper article, and it was a ghost story that told the story of this ghost they call the Dark Lady.
Oh my goodness. No.
Who's the dominant spirit of the building, according to legend.
Yes, according to the legend.
And I was intrigued with this story. So after reading it, since I was home, I decided I'm going to go down to this building since it's here in Hamilton. I'm going to go take a look at it. So I hopped in the car, drove down, and I saw this just dilapidated, destroyed building.
They rebuilt it.
It was all boarded up. The windows are all bricked over. The bricks were just
growing inside.
Yeah, the tree was growing up through the floor in the middle of the foyer. And
was the Scooby Gang already there?
Oh,
yeah, I think so. And so over the years, I never forgot this story, and I never forgot going down there because I'm looking at this building going, wow, this is really creepy. Now, this is back in the 1980s, so I wasn't involved in the paranormal at that time. I didn't know anything about the paranormal. I was just interested at the moment, but I never forgot about it. And it was 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to take a tour of the building. As I say, it's now restored.
I used to do those tours in that building.
And there was a tour taking place, a ghost tour. And so Trudy and I signed up, and we went down and we took this tour. And here's where the connection comes in with the children, because, as I say, at one point, this building was a schoolhouse. Back in the late 1800s.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was a school.
There was a demand for more school space because of the laws that were changing. Where at that time you had children working in the factories as child labor, and the laws were changing that. Well, in addition to working in the factories, these children now need to go and get an education. So they turned the Custom House building into a schoolhouse. And that's where our connection comes in, because we were touring this building, and as you say, the tugs on your shirt and everything were up in the upstairs hallway on the second floor. Trudy feels at child's height, someone grab her leg. She turns around, there's nothing there. Right after that, she had this ring on her finger that's made of like a hematite. The ring snapped in half.
Wow.
And it's interesting because when this happened, the ghost tour that we were taking, the story they were telling is of a child spirit who haunts the building. And that incident with Trudy, just in addition to my being drawn to the building from years ago,
right?
She's now drawn to the building because of what just happened.
That's wild.
So that's really
so it's exciting in the moment when it happens, isn't it? Like there's this adrenaline to it. You go, ooh, look.
That's actually what got us started in the paranormal was this incident.
Wow.
So
okay.
The ghost tour that was taking place, it happened once a month. So we started going back every single month.
Oh,
almost obsessed to the point of obsession now. And we started focusing on this child spirit, and like over and over. And we've been in there.
Do you
What's that?
It was a boy?
Little boy. His name is David.
Yep.
And I say this is where my communication comes in, is that for 15, 16, 17 times we've gone in, investigated this building, concentrating on this little boy, and we would get communication through our equipment, through the seances that were held by the ghost group at the beginning of the evening. And there was one time that the beginning of the evening they had a spirit board set up. And this little boy, David, came through and he says, I want to talk to Trudy. And so they're going, okay, well, we'll set this up later and, let's get on with the evening. And so Trudy and I went upstairs to the third floor where the attic of this building is. And we were investigating up there because there's a little bicycle up there that we discovered through our work that this little boy was attached to. So we would always go up there. And downstairs in the main area, there were people still trying to use the spirit board. And little David kept coming through saying, I want to talk to Trudy. I want to talk to Trudy. That's the only response that would come through the board. He just locked it off. And finally, somebody from the ghost tour had to come upstairs to the attic to find us. To say, hey, guys, we need you to come back downstairs. We got a problem down here.
How creepy.
Yeah, and so Trudy got a one-on-one time with her little boy through this board. And as I say, for me, it's communication. And
did she talk to the board? Did she speak to him?
Yeah, and what we've discovered, and this is why I do what I do, is we discovered through these various investigations, putting little pieces together each time. And you'd get a little piece and it wouldn't make any sense. You go to the next time, you get another little piece. Didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But then when you start putting them all together, a story started to emerge.
Yeah.
We got the story of this little boy.
That's
and
awesome.
He comes from a time in the late 1800s that was known as the British Home Children.
Yes.
Here in Canada. There's the custom house. Yeah.
Yep.
As it looks today.
Yes.
Yeah, today.
So there was a movement that was taking place called the here in Canada we called it the British Home Children. Over in England, it was known as the British Child Emigration Movement.
Yes.
And things had gotten so bad in the late 1800s over in England through social inequality, poverty, the children working in factories, workhouses. Both England and Canada decided something needed to be done to help these children out. and there were many uprooted through this program, brought to Canada for a better life.
Yes.
Which didn't always work out the case, but this little boy David, he was one of these little children.
Wild.
And so that's basically the whole backstory. Now, why is he attached to Trudy? So we're doing all our investigations. As I say, we're putting little pieces together here and there. Little David believes Trudy is his mother.
Oh.
She reminds him of his mother.
Oh.
And so he latched onto her and attached himself to her to the point where that the investigations and tours at the Custom House building, they don't happen anymore because of ownership of the building. They decided, no more of this ghost stuff. Yeah. So what happened is, because little David is so attached to Trudy, once we stopped going down there because we couldn't go anymore, he came home with us.
Oh.
And we've got him here at home.
Wow.
We've actually got a couple spirits there from the Custom House. In the early 1900s, the building was occupied by the social services department, and it provided a living space for homeless people that were coming in on the trains looking for work. And you can't see it in the picture there behind Seika, but there's a very steep drop off.
Yeah.
At the front of the building that literally goes straight down to the train tracks.
Yeah, there's a road now, but it used to just be a hill, and then there was an entrance to the building through a tunnel. Right?
Yes, and that's exactly where I'm going with this, is that the social services department dug a tunnel from the basement of the Custom House down to where the trains would stop. So these homeless men didn't have to injure themselves trying to climb up this embankment. They could just come in through the tunnel up into the building.
Good.
And one night there were 15 men inside the tunnel when it collapsed. And all 15 were buried alive in this tunnel. And another one of the spirits we have here at home from the Custom House is one of these 15 men from the tunnel as well.
Oh my goodness.
Here's an interesting story, because I used to do the tours at Custom House, right? Ed and I used to be tour guides there. I've had a lot of experiences. Now, the Dark Lady is always this one, that gets sort of hashed over. It's a bit like the Colin Swayze story of Niagara on the Lake. Yes. It's not true story. It's grown legs of its own because these ghost tours and that like to, make it like it's something real. But the story was a poem that was written by the customs guy who used to live in this building. And he wrote this poem about the Dark Lady. And the Dark Lady was referring to gin. Gin was a real problem in Victorian times, right? With people drinking bathtub gin and it was the scourge of the Victorian era. And so he wrote a poem about it. I actually went to the Halloween party, a Halloween party dressed as the Dark Lady. I was 7 feet tall. Oh. I had huge shoes on underneath with this great big wig, all dressed in black.
What's the story of the Dark Lady? Because I don't actually know.
Right. Well, we'll talk.
The story is that she was a young woman from England.
Yes.
From a small village. And she was attacked and raped by a man of very important influence in that village. Mm-hmm. And to protect her from further sexual assaults, her family decided it would be best if they sent her away. Mm-hmm. So the story goes is that they put her on a ship sailing out from England to the British colonies here in Canada. And the ship that she was on ended up here in Hamilton, Ontario. And during the voyage, It's said that she fell in love with the ship's captain and entered into a romance with him during the voyage. And as the ship drew close into Hamilton, the lights were appearing on the horizon. They were coming into the harbor. It said, "Oh, well, the captain suddenly remembered that he had a wife and children back home in England."
Oh no!
Yes, so
he did.
In order to prevent any kind of scandal, he murdered this woman they called the Dark Lady. He strangled her. When the ship docked, the crew brought the body into the custom house and buried it inside a vaulted chamber that's in the basement.
Oh, how terrible!
And they say that her body is bricked up inside the walls or in the floor of this vault.
Great fairy tale of the custom.
And so that's the story, the legend of the Dark Lady as to why she's there.
But the real story is it was a poem written about gin, and the vices and the description of the Dark Lady in the poem was that she was 7 feet tall with horns, and that she was beautiful and could entice any man, right? So they're talking about the horrors of drinking gin and being a drunkard and being an alcoholic. But so interestingly enough, though, this building is quite an interesting place, because when I used to do the tours there, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you go downstairs into the basement where the dummy, the serving dummy is, right, the elevator, the food dummy, there's the room across that had the servants' staircase, where you would open the door and you could go in. I could never enter that space. There's
a funky energy in there.
Well, I'll tell you why, because I finally entered the space after a number of tours. I could barely put my hand on the door handle to open the door to that staircase. When I ended up finally going in, I had the worst experience in that house that I had ever had. It was everything just all at once. There was screaming, there was muffled crying, there was this horrible scene on the staircase of one of the young servant girls being raped. And so it was just like, this is why I don't go in this room. But it was just like all of it was just playing out for me. It was like the worst experience in that house. It's not a house in that building, but I mean, there's some great stories with it. A lot of them are just that they're stories, but it certainly has a definite presence and an energy, and it was a macaroni factory even.
Back in from the 1950s right up to about 1979. Yeah. It was a macaroni factory. Yeah.
Factory. They were making pasta in there. So it had all of these.
I'm waiting for the pasta ghost story.
I don't know.
Well, the story connected to the macaroni factory.
It's a pesticide story.
Is the caretaker of the building.
Really? Wow.
Who was there at the time from 1952.
Yeah.
And he haunts the attic upstairs.
The attic space,
His name is Walter.
Yes.
He hung himself in a back room in that attic. And we've had some experiences with him as well.
Yeah, he's been around. He's sort of in that upper third floor area, often in that attic space where there's storage, but even in the hallway that leads into that one space, you'll come across him there. But I mean, it is an interesting building, and it has like a really great, I mean, great in the weirdest sense, but there's some good energy, and there's some quite not great energy in that place.
Thank you for watching The Ghost Show Online. Join your hosts again next week as they discuss more tales of the supernatural, the paranormal, and all things spectacular. See you soon.